So good morning, good afternoon, whatever time this is, wherever you are. I'm creating this video on Friday, August 6th. At the suggestion of a friend when I was telling her about how it is that I decided to quit smoking. So that's what this subject is of this particular video is. Why and how I stopped smoking. I cannot claim I quit smoking until I'm on my deathbed, because at that point I know I will have been successful at totally quitting smoking. Um, so anyway, with this awakening that's happening and the focus on the higher consciousness, the 5D consciousness, um, we know it's coming and we know it's happening. And actually, I've known for a long time that I cannot raise my consciousness at the same time that I'm putting toxins into my body. And that can be anything from toxic substances like alcohol and cigarettes and, I don't know, sugar and the different chemicals and soda, you name it, or toxic thoughts, or toxic behaviors, whatever they may be. Um, so I had stopped smoking last in September 2020, and for 4 months, and did did really well, and then everything got to me, and I picked it back up again, and I was doing it for several months, and I developed a smoker's cough, and my throat got kind of raw and uncomfortable, because I would smoke like 15 cigarettes in the morning. And so I'm observing myself doing this, and I kept saying, but I don't want to do this. And I would allow myself to run out of cigarettes and I only would smoke in the morning basically. And so I'd go, okay, I'd run out of cigarettes and go, okay, I won't have any cigarettes when I get up in the morning because I don't have any on hand. And then I'd wake up in the morning and go, oh, I really want to have cigarettes. So I'd start the coffee pot going, hop in the car, drive up to the 24-hour market and buy my buy my cigarettes. I just could not trick myself into stopping. And I just know that I cannot achieve higher consciousness while I'm putting these toxins in my body. Period. End of story. It's not just gonna, ooh, I'll wake up and I'll have higher consciousness and then I won't smoke. It's like it doesn't work that way. So it just so happens that I had a phone call with a friend, and I called her because I was feeling very vulnerable, and I was wanting to work through my feelings, and I just needed somebody to be the sacred witness. This is a Brave New Life friend, and I knew I could count on her for that. And during this phone call, which was very rewarding and very beneficial, she brought up the topic of batting, where you take a wiffle bat and you beat something like the bed or whatever, and start working out your emotions, and or just start beating it, and then whatever comes up to come out comes up. And I didn't have a wiffle bat, but that idea sounded really great. So I have a baseball bat, and I took that baseball bat and I started beating on a stuffed chair. And as I was beating it, and I was kind of expressing anger, anger and blame, and directing it out there at others, like other people are to blame. What started coming up was, I am powerful. I am powerful. And I refuse to be a slave to nicotine. I refuse to be a slave to these habits. And that's the way I was feeling, was enslaved by my addictions. And so whether you want to call it an addiction or a bad habit or whatever. And I just kept beating it and saying, I am more powerful than that. I am not a slave. I am not a victim of my habits. I am strong and I am powerful. and I do not want to smoke anymore. And I don't want to drink coffee anymore. And when I finished doing that, I felt really powerful and determined. And I went and I got the pack of cigarettes. I had like 7 cigarettes left. And I tore them up. I didn't just throw the pack in the trash. We know how that, whatever. Um, I broke them all in half and shredded them. I took the coffee pot, which was old, so it wasn't worth giving to anybody, and I carried it down to the dumpster. I walked it down and threw it out so that if I woke up the next morning and wanted to have coffee and cigarettes, I'd have to spend a fortune for cups of coffee at the AM/PM. But you know what? I haven't wanted to smoke since. And even though just lately I've been going through a lot of ego ego stuff, anger and blame and just, my emotions all over the place, I have not had an inclination to smoke. It just does not interest me. And I don't know how many weeks ago it was that I quit. Whenever I want to remember when it was, I have to look it up on QuickBooks. When did I spend money on cigarettes the last time? It was sometime in June. That's all I know. It was sometime in June. And so I stopped the smoking. I went back to Whole Foods plant-based because I also had done that in September and done that for 4 months, lost a lot of weight. And then in January, when I allowed everything to get to me, I went back to bad eating habits and stopped being Whole Foods plant-based. And but the blessing is I didn't put the weight back on. I didn't overeat. I just stopped that practice. So when I stopped the smoking, I went back to Whole Foods Plant Strong. I'm going to say Plant Strong, and got back into that cooking for myself and walking every morning. And just recently, I started meditating every morning because that is all part of building my spiritual muscle and working on higher consciousness. Because I am not going to wake up one day and poof, I'll be in 5D consciousness. There's an opportunity to enter that portal and to be supported in achieving higher consciousness. But I don't know about anybody else. Maybe they'll experience a miracle of just waking up and all their ego stuff will have just peeled away and everything will be healed and all the stories they tell themselves will be gone. But that's not the way it's working for me. So anyway, that is the why and how that I stopped smoking. Thank you.